For 10 long years, a widowed mother worked day and night, sacrificing everything just to put food on the table for her daughters. She thought her love and efforts would one day be rewarded. But 11 years later, what her daughters did left the entire neighborhood speechless. This was no ordinary mother, left alone after losing her husband. She had no wealth, no support, and no one to lean on. Yet every single day, she fought against hunger and hardship to make sure her daughters never slept with an empty stomach. She skipped meals, worked multiple jobs, and even wore torn clothes so her daughters could study and live with dignity. Neighbors often whispered, "How long can she keep this up?" But the mother's heart never wavered. Her love was her only strength. Years passed quietly, like pages turning in an old, forgotten book. The daughters grew taller, wiser, and busier, stepping into the world on their own. The mother often watched them from afar, a mixture of pride and worry in her eyes. She wondered silently if her sacrifices would one day be forgotten, as happens so often. Some neighbors whispered cruelly, "You gave them too much. Don't expect anything back." Those words pierced her heart like icy needles, filling her nights with restless thoughts. She questioned herself, doubted her worth, and feared the sting of betrayal. Would her daughters, her own flesh and blood, turn away when life offered them choices? Would they remember the countless nights she stayed awake, keeping the cold and hunger at bay? Would they recall the meals she skipped so they could eat without worry? Or would all those years of love and toil vanish, unnoticed and unappreciated? Her heart ached with anticipation, clinging to hope that one day her love would return in kind. And then, 11 years later, on a day she thought would pass quietly like every other, something extraordinary happened. It was her birthday, but the widowed mother had never celebrated birthdays for herself. For her, birthdays were always about her daughters, baking a small piece of bread, lighting a candle made from wax leftovers, and whispering prayers of gratitude. That morning she sat in her dimly lit room, her hands folded in prayer, thanking God for giving her strength to survive another year. She had no expectations. After all, her daughters were busy women now, living far away in the city. She thought perhaps a phone call or a message would come, and that would be enough to warm her heart. But fate had something different planned. That afternoon, she heard a gentle knock on her old broken wooden door. Surprised, she stood up slowly, wiping her hands on her worn-out apron. When she opened the door, her heart nearly stopped. Standing before her were the very daughters she had raised with sweat, tears, and countless sacrifices. But they were no longer the little girls who once clung to her sari, asking for food. They had grown into strong, elegant, successful women, their eyes glistening with tears, their smiles full of love, their posture carrying the dignity she had always prayed for. For a moment, the mother thought she was dreaming. She reached out to touch their faces, to make sure this was real. And then she noticed something even more shocking. Behind them stood neighbors, villagers, and a small crowd, all watching curiously. And right in front of her door was something she could never have imagined in her wildest dreams, a group of men carrying boxes, papers, and keys. Her eldest daughter stepped forward, her hands trembling as she held out a set of shiny silver keys. "Mama," she whispered, her voice breaking, "for 10 years you fed us when you had nothing. You gave us education when you had no strength left. You gave us love when the world gave you nothing but hardship. Today, it's our turn. We saved, we worked, we sacrificed, and together we bought you the home you always dreamed of." The mother's lips parted, but no words came out. Her heart pounded in her chest. The house she had prayed for all those years, a small but warm home where rain wouldn't leak from the roof, where she could sleep without fear of cold winds, was now standing before her, real and hers. The neighbors, who once doubted her, who whispered behind her back saying, "These girls will forget their mother. She is wasting her life on them," now stood frozen in silence. Their eyes widened, their hearts heavy with guilt. For the daughters had not forgotten. They remembered every skipped meal, every sleepless night, every moment their mother went hungry so they could eat. They remembered her walking miles under the scorching sun just to bring home bread. And today they came back not with excuses, but with a miracle. Tears rolled down the mother's cheeks as her daughters embraced her tightly. "You thought we wouldn't remember?" "Mama," the younger one whispered, "but every single sacrifice you made is written in our hearts. Today, we just returned a fraction of your love." The villagers erupted in applause, some with tears in their eyes, others shaking their heads in disbelief. The scene was unforgettable. A poor widowed mother, once mocked and pitied, now stood as the proudest woman in the neighborhood, not because of wealth, but because of the love and gratitude of her children. And in that moment, as she stepped into her new home, her soul whispered, "Sacrifice never goes in vain. Love always finds its way back." As the mother stepped into her new home, her trembling feet touched the polished floor she had never imagined walking upon. The air smelled of fresh paint and flowers, yet what filled her heart was not the luxury, but the overwhelming love that made this house a home. Her eyes brimmed with tears of joy, and with every step she took, memories of the past 10 years flashed before her. Nights spent hungry, days spent working under the sun, and countless prayers whispered in silence. She could barely believe that the same daughters she once fed with broken hands and an empty stomach had now gifted her the greatest treasure of her life. Her daughters ran to her, wrapping their arms around her frail body. Their voices shook with emotion as they whispered in her ear, "For 10 years, you fed us when you had nothing. You gave us your strength when you were weak, your hope when you were tired, and your dreams when you had none left. Now, Mama, it's our turn to give you everything. You gave us life, and today we give you back the comfort you always deserved." The mother clutched them tightly, her tears soaking their shoulders. Outside, the entire town gathered, watching silently. The same neighbors who once doubted her, who whispered behind her back, now stood humbled, realizing they had witnessed something extraordinary. That day they learned a timeless truth, that true love never goes wasted. Sacrifices made with a pure and selfless heart always return, not in the same measure, but multiplied beyond imagination.